Hello everyone out there in tax land, Dan, the tax man here. Listen, taxes don't have to be hard. Here we take complex tax subjects and we make them easy because we want everyone to understand, to benefit, and to save money. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the age-old questions in the tax field, and that is, how long do I have to keep my tax documents? Now, if you're like most Americans, you probably have boxes and boxes of lonely old tax documents sitting in your closet or basement. But I've got good news for taxpayers out there. You probably don't need to save those documents for as long as you might think. You see, there's this little thing called the 3-year statute of limitations on assessments. And what it basically means is that the IRS has 3 years from the date you filed your return to audit it or tell you that they have any problems with it. And that means that for the vast majority of cases, you can get rid of all of your W-2s, 1099s, receipts, and other tax documents 3 years after you filed your return. But while 3 years after the date you filed the return is the general deadline for the IRS to audit and or assess any additional tax, there are a few exceptions that extend that time period beyond 3 years, and in those few exceptions, you'd want to keep your tax records just a little bit longer. For example, you're going to want to keep your tax records for 4 years if you maintain any employment tax records, like those needed to file Forms 941 or 940. The IRS has just a little bit longer to assess additional tax on these and audit these, so if you have any of these employment tax records, keep them for 4 years. Next, you're going to want to keep your tax records for 6 years rather than 3 if there's any chance you may have underreported your income by 25% or more. See, if the IRS can show that you forgot 25% or more of your income, the law gives them 6 years rather than 3 to audit and assess additional tax. So if there's any chance that might have happened, be safe. Keep your tax records for 6 years rather than 3 years. Third, keep your tax records for 7 years if on your return you filed a claim for loss from worthless securities, including worthless stocks and bonds, or the bad debt deduction. Because of the complexity of these cases and the research required, the law gives the IRS just a little bit extra time to assess additional tax or audit on these cases, 7 years rather than the traditional 3. So while rare, if you've claimed these deductions, make sure you're keeping your tax records for 7 years. And lastly, there are a few instances when you're going to want to keep your tax records indefinitely, and that includes years when you did not file a return. If you rewind back, you'll notice that the statute of limitations all start running when you file the return. So if you've never filed a return, that statute of limitations does not exist, and the IRS can audit it whenever they'd like. Next is if you file a fraudulent return. Now, I hope no one's doing this, but if the IRS can show that you filed with intentional wrongdoing with specific purpose of evading the tax, then once again, they can audit it whenever they'd like, even if it's 10 or more years later. And lastly, you're going to want to keep records if you've purchased property, like real estate, collectibles, stock, cryptocurrency. Keep the records showing the purchase date and purchase price so that when you later sell that item, you can hopefully qualify for long-term capital gain treatment, and you can make sure to subtract out the full cost basis when computing your gain on that, which will reduce your tax. So there you have it. Assuming none of the exceptions apply, after only 3 years, you can rid yourself of any of your tax documents. And if you want to be super safe, 6 years is the maximum amount of time you're going to need to keep them. So if you've got tax questions, if you need to file a tax return, or if you have years of unfiled returns, or if you've got a balance due and need to negotiate a resolution with the IRS, give me and my team at Community Tax a call. Phone number 1-800-424-8332. O, si prefiere español, 888-523-6606. And hey, if you like this video, why don't you give us a like or give us a subscribe so that you can make sure that you stay up to date on all the latest tax news and information. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dan, the tax man, tax professional with Community Tax, and I will see you next time.